Hey everybody, I am Brady Briggs. Welcome to another episode of the Combat Logic. Today I want to talk about UFC Fight Night 206 going on this weekend at the Apex Center in Las Vegas. Now, this whole card isn't quite put together yet. There's still a lot of announced bouts that aren't on the prelims or main card yet. And this is a pretty lackluster card name value wise. So I'm just going to go over the main event, and I'm also going to go over Bellator, which happens the night prior on Friday. So Vicente Luque is rematching Belal Muhammad this weekend. And I want to go over what these guys have done since their first fight. Now, their first fight, Luque, he starts Muhammad with a vicious hook just 79 seconds into the first round. That was his fourth win in a row. He then lost to Leon Edwards, and since then, he's gone 10-1. So since their first fight, Vicente Luque has gone 10-2. And since their first fight, Belal Muhammad has gone 10-1 with a no contest. So they've each fought 12 times since their first fight, and they've each won 10 times since their first fight. Okay, Muhammad was getting picked apart by Leon Edwards pretty handily until that fight resulted in a no contest. Technically, I think he would have lost that fight. So technically, they're both 10-2 since their last fight, since the last meet. The only person to officially beat Belal Muhammad in that time is Jeff Neal, and Muhammad is 6-0-1 in his last 7. He went 3-0-1 last year. He had one of the better years, 2021 last year. And his last 2 wins come over Damian Maia and Stephen Thompson. Now, Stephen Thompson is the last man to defeat Vicente Luque. In those 2 fights that he lost, they were to Leon Edwards and Stephen Thompson. And he is coming off wins over Tyron Woodley and Michael Chiesa. He Darce choked both of them. One a jiu-jitsu brown belt, one a jiu-jitsu black belt. That's going to be a really interesting fight. They both improved so much. Like, Belal Muhammad, man, he's kind of blown me away over his last couple of fights. Like, I didn't expect him to beat Damian Maia, and I didn't expect him to beat Stephen Thompson either. Like, he's really gotten good at what he does. He's got good striking, very technical. He's got good wrestling. He's strong as hell. And Vicente Luque, man, he's just like the most durable warrior we have in the sport right now. Vicente Luque, he came to the UFC with a 7-4-1 record and lost his debut. So he fell to 7-5. He's now 21-7-1. That's just remarkable. And he finishes everybody. The only person he has a win over in the UFC that he hasn't finished is fucking Mike Perry. Okay? And he broke Mike Perry's face in that fight. 2 of his earlier losses are split decisions, and then his last 2 losses to Leon and Stephen Thompson. I mean, there's no shame there. I'm really excited for this fight. Then we got Bellator 277 going down on April 15th, this Friday. And Tyrell Fortune co-headlines the prelims. Former middleweight champion Rafael Carvalho headlines the prelims in a light heavyweight bout. Tim Johnson opens up the main card against Linton Vassell, who Linton Vassell, surprisingly, over his last 3 fights, has defeated Sergey Karatanov by knockout, which was just remarkable. He was coming into that fight on a 3-fight losing streak. He knocked out Sergey Karatanov. He knocked out Hani Marks, a UFC veteran, and then he just beat Tyrell Fortune in his last fight, where Tim Johnson just fought for the interim championship against Valentin Moldavsky and lost the fight. It was relatively close, but he lost the fight. And then he just got knocked out by Fedor in his last fight. Before that, he was coming in on a 3-fight win streak over Tyrell Fortune. He knocked him out. Matt Mitrione, he knocked him out. And Chet Congo, who's fighting for the heavyweight belt next. That should be an interesting fight. Aaron Pico, man, this really sucks because Aaron Pico was supposed to fight Jeremy Kennedy, who is 16-2 as a pro, I believe. and he's a UFC veteran. He was about to be Aaron Pico's first UFC veteran that he fought, but he had to pull out, and Pico is now fighting Adley Edwards, who comes into the fight with a 9-1 record. Pico's 9-3. He's on a 5-fight win streak. We see something new out of him every time he fights, which is very, very impressive. Aldi Edwards, his last 2 wins are over a 5-1 opponent and an 8-1 opponent. So he's a good replacement, I suppose. I'm really upset that we're not seeing him face Jeremy Kennedy. Like, that really sucks, but should be a good fight nonetheless. Aaron Pico is part of it. Then the co-main event, we got a light heavyweight championship bout between Vadim Nemkov and Corey Anderson. This should be great. Now, Vadim Nemkov won the belt against Ryan Bader. He just completely blew Ryan Bader out of the water. And he then defended it against Phil Davis and Julius Sanglakis. Now, his only 2 losses, he comes into this fight with a 15-2 record. His only 2 losses come to Carl Albrechtsen by a split decision, a very, very close fight. And Carl is a pretty good fighter. And then Jerry Prokaska. Those are his only 2 losses, man. He's now a 3-time world champion. Faces Corey Anderson, who left the UFC 4-1 in his last 5, only getting knocked out by Jan Blachowicz, someone he beat prior and someone who won the belt after. And Anderson comes in on a 3-fight win streak, a 3-fight finish streak, which is something a lot of us didn't expect. You know, Corey Anderson's never really been much of a finisher. And as soon as he comes over to Bellator, he gets 3 knockout wins in a row. He takes Melvin Manhoff down and palms him out. He does the same to Davledstan Yagimashiramov, and he did the same to Ryan Bader, except he hurt Ryan Bader on the feet and finished him on the ground. No, that was really, really impressive. Like, Corey Anderson's really coming into his own. Honestly, I thought he was going to be the guy to give John Jones a run for his money, but Jones left the division and Anderson left the UFC. So sad. And then in the main event, we got AJ McKee versus Patricio Pitbull Freire 2. Now, this is such a wicked fight because Patricio, coming into their first fight, was 32-4, and he'd avenged just about all of his losses. Like, he lost to Joe Warren way back by split decision. He was never able to avenge that, but that was his first loss. He then lost another split decision, this time in a title fight against Pat Curran, and then he since came back and avenged his loss to Curran. He fought Daniel Strauss for the 3rd time, who he'd already beat twice. He lost this time. Well, he came back and he avenged that fight too. And then his last loss other than that was a leg injury to Ben Henderson. It wasn't really a loss, you know? I mean, it is, but it isn't. You know, like a lot of people, especially Sean O'Malley, for instance, he thinks he's undefeated because his only loss was a fight he got injured in. Well, that's kind of what happened here. Kind of like when Michael Chandler lost to Brent Primus, and then he came back and avenged it, you know? Like, doesn't say they're the better fighter. But, yeah, everybody he'd lost to, he'd avenged, or it was controversial. And then AJ McKee catches him with a head kick and damn near knocks him out with it, and then catches him in a guillotine and submits him in under 2 minutes. Like, Pitbull is the best Bellator fighter we've ever seen. And AJ McKee laid his name to that claim, as he's now 18-0. He's finished his last 4 opponents en route to winning the belt, like Georgi Karakhanyan, fucking World Series of Fighting champion, Derek Campos, Darian Caldwell, Bellator champion, Patricio Pitbull, Bellator champ. Man, like, this kid is good. His career is kind of going like we expected Aaron Pico's career to go, in all honesty. Hopefully someday we get to see them fight each other. That would be really sick. But, man, I don't know how this fight's going to go. Like, it's so interesting. I'm glad that they're giving Pitbull an immediate rematch because he deserves it. But what do you guys think of the fights this weekend? Let me know. I appreciate y'all for watching. Have a good one.